The most dangerous man is not the one who screams and breaks things, it's Theon who smiles, who builds a life with you so meticulously that you don't notice. He's designed a backdoor for himself, me husband. Marcus was a master architect of the perfect life and an even better architect of the perfect lie. I never thought I'd be the woman to tell a story like this. I was the one who pied the women in those dramatic online videos, they ones whose worlds imploded from betrayal. I would shake my head with certainty that felt like armor, thinking that will never be me, but armor ill-earned is only as strong as the person you trust not to stab you in the back. This is the story of how that trust dissolved and how I stopped being a gentle wife and became the calm, deliberate woman who would reclaim every piece of the life he tried to steal. My revenge wouldn't be a firestorm, it would be a quiet, calculated demolition of his world, built with the very same precision had used to construct his deceit. My name is Lena. For 15 years I was Marietto. Marcus, we met in college, a clitteraments, he a brilliant and ambitious engineering student, me a hopeful architecture major. His confidence was a magnetic force. He spoke of the future as if he were already living in it, and painted a picture of us in that future that was irresistibly mistook his ambition for loyalty, his charisma for character. He proposed on a rainy night in a park under the hazy glow of a gas lamp, and I, a romantic fool, believed our life would be as timeless as that moment. And for a while it was Heexold climbing the ranks at a major construction firm, while I opened a small but successful interior design studio, Webot, a beautiful home in a quiet leafy suburb, the kind with a porch and a garden I tended to with loving care. We were to everyone who knew us the blueprint of a perfect couple. We hosted inner parties, our laughter echoing in tenth night. We took carefully curated vocations, our smiling faces grassing holiday cards. We were a testament to stability, to getting it right, but inside the walls of our perfect house of fog was rolling in silent and thick blurring feelings of the life I thought we were building together. The changes were insidious, so small I could explain them away. He started working late, a big project, he'd say, kissing my forehead with a distracted air. I was the supportive wife, so I'd leave his dinner warming in the oven and go to bed alone. The business trip started, heataways, hated them, complaining about bootstoral hotel rooms and lonely nights. Suddenly, he was volunteering for the Miss Suitcase, always half-picked by Theodore. That was the first tremor in the foundation. The smaller erosions followed. Casual touches vanished, the long rambling conversations we used to have in bed about everything and nothing were replaced by the blue light of his phone screen. The silence between us grew cavernous, echoing with everything Warrant saying. I tried to bridge the gap. Blamed myself, I wasn't trying hard now. I cooked his favorite meals, left loving notes in his briefcase, planned weekend getaways he'd cancel at the last minute. The harder I pushed, the further pulled away his excuses, becoming more elaborate, his gaze more distant. He was a ghost in our own home. The truth elevated. A Tuesday night he left his phone on the kitchen island while he took a shower, something he never did. He'd grown protective of it lately, a habit I had attributed to work stress, and instinctively and primal urged me to pick it up. I wish I could say it was a noble search for truth, but it was a desperate act of a woman who knew she was drowning and needed to see the monster beneath the water. His texts were clean, but his amalthor, it was a thread with a woman named Sophie. The subject line was "for your eyes only." My hands trembled as I clicked it open. It wasn't graphic, it was worse. It was intimate, it was a chronicle of a shared emotional life I was not a part of. Inside jokes, praises for her work plans, for their next work trip, phrase like, "I miss the way you laugh," and counting the seconds until I can see you again. He had sent her a photo of a sunset from a hotel balcony in a city he was supposedly visiting for a conference. I knew that hotel, it was from a family vacation we had taken 2 years prior. He had recycled our memory and given it to her. I stood in the silent kitchen theme of the refrigerator, the only sound me heart hammering against my ribs. Thelify. I knew the 15 years of shared history dissolved into a lie. I didn't cry. A strange icy calm washed over me, aculing clarity that froze my grief solid. I placed the phone back on the counter exactly as I'd found it, went upstairs and looked at my reflection. Expected to see a shattered woman, instead I saw the face of a stranger, a woman with cold clear eyes and a resolve I didn't know one possessed. The betrayal was so absolute, so profound, it had cauterized the wound before it could bleed for days. I said nothing. I became an actress in my own life, playing theft of the devoted, oblivious wife. He cooked his favorite meals. I asked about this day. I smiled when he told me Lisbeth. Inside I was a detective. I was studying him, collecting data, analyzing his patterns. Every lie was a thread Andy was slowly, patiently unraveling the entire tapestry of his deceit. I needed to know everything before I made my move. I created an anonymous email address. I wrote to Sophie, pretending to be a mutual acquaintance from Marcus' firm. I've her a story about being a new hire. Woe admired her design work, which I had found online. She was a freelance graphic designer, and her vanity was my way, and flattered she opened up, believing she had found a confidant within a week. I had the entire story. They had been seeing each other for almost a year. He'd told her he was unhappily married on the verge of a divorce. He'd painted me as a difficult, emotionally unstable woman he was staying with out of pity. He'dn't just cheated, he had dearest me rewriting our 15 years into a story to make himself the hero. The sickness I felt was deep, but my purpose is deeper. Revenge, I decided, was not about screaming matches or public humiliation. Was his level, not mine. My revenge would be a masterclass in quiet power. It would be about making him feel the profound, deafening absence of the life he had so carelessly discarded. It would be about taking back my name, my dignity, yawned, my future, brick by brick. My first stop was a lawyer, the best one in Thessaly, a woman known for her sharp, mined, discreet methods. She listened to mystery, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she looked at me with a glimmer of what I can only describe as professional respect. Most women in your position are crying, she said. You're taking notes. We reviewed our finances. Her assets were significant and mostly in joint names. There were no children, a fact for which I was suddenly incelligrateful to cock. I began my silent investigation. Became a forensic accountant of our life. I gathered evidence, not just emails but secret credit card statements, auto receipts for his getaways, with Sophie disguised as business expense. Say documented every lie I saved, every screenshot, every PDF in a secure folder on my laptop. I named the folder Restoration. Then the hardest part began, the emotional detachment. I stopped betraying. I stopped asking questions. I stopped waiting up for him. I let him believe I was just tired or stressed or busy with my own work, and he believed I was too consumed by his double life, too arrogant in his belief that I waste same predictable gentle Lena to ever suspect a thing. What Marcus didn't realize was that while he was busy building a fantasy life with another woman, I was busy rebuilding myself. Enrolled in an architectural photography course, a passion I had long set aside. I started having dinner with the old friends he had subtly pushed out of our lives. I began to journal, not about my pain, but about my plans, my dreams, my of the woman I was before. I became Marcus's wife. He thought he was writing the final chapter of our story, had no idea I had already taken Thepan. Marcus remained blissfully ignorant. Thought was his greatest miscalculationism. My silence was weakness. 4 weeks I maintained the facade. He'd come home regaling me with fabricated stories of meetings and projected liens, and I would nod with the placid expression of a wife who believed him. He brought me guilt offerings, a silk scarf from a trip, a bottle of expensive inn, and I would thank him with a sweetness that should have terrified him, knowing they were tokens of his betraying me. Anger had cooled from a raging fear into a focused blue-hot flame. It no longer sought to destroy it, sought to forge the call from my lawyer came on a Thursday afternoon. Everything is in place, she said, her voice crisp and efficient. The paperwork was drafted. The evidence of his affair and financial infidelity was organized, and irrefutably had already quietly opened my own bank accounts and diverted my income. I had paused my contributions to our joint savings. A small change he would never notice. I wasn't just preparing for a divorce, I was preparing for a but I wasn't ready to file a not yet. The legal victory was only one part of the plan. First, I wanted him to experience the slow creeping dread often Tanti. Wanted him to feel the ground shifting beneath his feet, just as it had for Mezzo. I began the final phase of my performance. I started to change. I updated my wardrobe. Not drastically but with a subtle elegance that was new. I started smiling more, a genuine private smile that was never directed at him. I'd take calls in the other room, and laughing. I'd come home late from a photography class, smelling of the cool night air, my eyes bright with Aleph. He wasn't a part of at first. He was relieved my newfound independence, meatless pressure on him, but then the relief curdled into confusion. Then suspicion started asking questions. Were you who was on the phone? I'd give him the same vague dismissive answers he had given me for months. Oh, just a friend. Just out for the first time in over a year. He was paying attention, not out of love, but out of abnormal fear of losing control. You seem different lately, he said one night, his brow furrowed. I shrugged, turning a page in my book. Maybe I just got tired of waiting. His eyes flickered with something I hadn't seen in a long time. Insecurity. On evening, he cornered me in the hallway, his voice tight. Are you seeing Sione? I looked up at him and smiled a slow, calm smile that didn't reach my swilled at matter. If I was, he looked as if I had slapped him, and in that moment I saw it, the same cold fear I had felt staring at his phone. The game had changed, and he was finally realizing Hewant, the only one playing, he's trying to win me back. He came home Erlai brought flowers. He suggested a romantic weekend trip. Just the two of you sit was a pathetic transparenter fork and I felt nothing but a cold detached pity. I declined. Politely I had plans and I was building a life without him, and I was actually happy the breaking point arrived on a Friday night. I came home late, my camera bag slung over my shoulder. Feeling energized from a photography session, he was sitting on the couch in the dark, the picture of a worried husband. "We need to talk," he said, his voice strained. I sat in the armchair opposite him, a calmest land in his sea of anxiety. "I feel like I don't know what's going on anymore," he began. "Your never hero seems so distant." I nodded slowly. "It's a strange feeling, isn't it, to live with someone who feels like a stranger?" Stared at me, his mouth slightly agape. "I don't want to lose you, Lena." I leaned forward. "Marcus, you lost me a year ago. You just didn't notice." I let the hang in the air. "I know about Sophie, the trips, the emails." I know. Arriving, the color drained from his face. He opened his mouth to lie then closed it. "Defeated the great Marcus, thy master of control," was speechless. I stood up. "I think you should sleep in the guest room," I said, my voice even. "It's time we both got used to a new arrangement." He didn't argue in his silence. I felt a surge of power so potent it almost made him dizzy. The next morning, I sent the email to Sophie. It was short, professional, and devastating. I attached a photo from our wedding day and a copy of our marriage license. I wrote, "I am Marcus's wife of 15 years. I thought you deserved to know the truth of the man you were involved with. I hold no ill will toward you. You were deceived as well." She replied within the hour, a frantic miss of apologies and disgust. She had already blocked his number. I had surgically removed his fantasy life. I waited until our 15th anniversary over, the final blow. I let him spend 2 weeks trying to win me back with desperate, clumsy gestures. Then, on the morning of our anniversary, I handed him a large envelope over breakfast. He looked at me with pathetic hope, thinking it was a card and Ali Babrinch. He pulled out the signed divorce papers. He stared at them, his hand shocking. "You lied to me," he whispered. "A broken man. You used me. You discarded me like I was nothing." I looked him dead in the eye. "I learned from the best. The final act of me restoration was not about leaving him with nothing. It was about building he could never touch." We had always dreamed of buying a small plot of land by a lake and building our forever home, a project we had designed together years ago. As part of our settlement, he took that plot of land. He thought I would sell it, unable to bear the memory was wrong. I used my half of our assets and my own savings to fund that project myself. I redesigned the entire structure, transforming our old Dream into my new reality. It wasn't a home. It became the Phoenix Studio, a small beautiful retreat and gallery space for women artists rebuilding their lives after trauma. I took the ground where he had planned our future and I built a monument to my own survival. It was a revenge he never saw coming. Not a destructive act, but a creative one. Quiet, undeniable statement that I didn't just survive him, I thrived without him. If you are listening to this and you feel like you are drowning in the fog of me and Elsa's lies, know this: your story is not over. You do not have to meet their fire with fire. You can choose to walk away and build a life so full, so honest, and so beautiful that their absence becomes a gift that is a revenge that doesn't just last, it grows. I am no longer Marcus's wife. I am Lena, and I am finally home.